Oh, shit.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to this episode of the review show. I'm your host, Chris. Joined with me today is my co-host, Kelsey, and we are doing a review show on the trailer of Dark Phoenix. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. This is kind of late for Dead Funding because we normally do it the week of. Kind of dropped the ball on a couple things here a little bit. But this kind of gives us a little bit of fluffer for the whole, oh my god, I don't want spoilers. So the week after, we'll do the review show of actual Dark Phoenix, and then you'll actually have the review show week after you've seen the movie, so that way you can watch it and not be like, oh, well, I watched this after the movie and then forget about it and don't watch it. You know who you are. The people I'm talking to, you know who you are. Anyways, so Dark Phoenix, the trailer. Me and Kelsey just watched it. Looks pretty good in my opinion. I know Kelsey's not too big on the X-Men side of Marvel. She's more on the Avengers side, which I don't disagree with. I found that very hard to read sometimes growing up. I was way more of an Avengers fan, even though Deadpool's my favorite character. And he's actually from the X-Men side of things, but he's kind of more of a in-the-middle type character now. And then those of you who don't know, I have Deadpool behind me, obviously, and Kelsey has Domino behind her, who is also from the X-Men universe. That does not mean his character is going to be in the movie. I know this. But the X-Men movie cast is kind of small, so I kind of opened it up to whoever your favorite X-Men could be, and Kelsey is a fan of Domino. And everybody knows that I love Deadpool, so.
And if you haven't figured that out, please go and watch some of our freaking
anything.
stuff. God.
Legitimately anything.
It comes up in everything we do.
Yeah, it's somewhere there. But it's probably hidden within the Final Fantasy VII news, but it's in there somewhere. Anyways.
Yes.
So Dark Phoenix is kind of interesting. They're kind of jumping right into this. So for those of you who don't know, and then obviously Kelsey as well. So in the comics, Jean Grey struggles having this power called the Phoenix Force. And she does get it from going out into outer space and stuff like that. And what the Phoenix Force is, that is this strong force that she can kind of tap into to not only jack up her mutant abilities, but to also have new ones as well with this Phoenix Force. The only issue is that the Phoenix Force itself is a living entity. And it kind of goes round the universe destroying planets. So now that it's absorbed her, or now that she has absorbed the Phoenix Force, which she did not mean to, it was looking for a host, and she was strong enough to contain it, she now has to struggle with fighting with this force, this living entity inside of her body that just wants her to kill. And this becomes a big deal. Go ahead.
Sorry, I've seen, I think, like one or two X-Men movies, and they were some of the older, like little bit older ones.
Yep. And
there was a character named Jean. Is this the same character?
It's the same character, not the same actress, because they reset all this
Obviously.
when they did the Days of Future Past. They reset the entire timeline, but that did end the way it was supposed to, and the way it ended in the movie and the way it ended in the comics was that they had this whole love triangle going on between Jean, Cyclops, and Wolverine, and Wolverine had to kill her to stop her from murdering everybody. That's how it ended in the comics. That's how it ended in the last movie. It'll be interesting to see how they ended in this movie, since we don't have Wolverine in this movie. He's not in this universe.
So is that how Dark Phoenix is stopped? Like,
in the
is
comics
she stopped
and
really
in the
quickly?
movies. She's not stopped really quickly. She kills a shit ton of people and a shit ton of mutants.
Ooh.
And the cool part is where one of my favorite series comes in, because once again I said I'm an Avengers fan, is that later on in the comic book series, they have a series called Avengers versus the X-Men. And the reason why that happens is because the Phoenix Force is coming back. And not only does it come back, but it gets absorbed into Hope. Hope is the daughter of Cyclops and Jean Grey. Hope also has a brother who is Cable, who we met in the Deadpool movie. And he comes back from the future to basically kill anybody who wants to lay a hand on Hope. And the reason why is because the Avengers have come together and have made a decision that if the X-Men won't help, they need to kill Hope. So that way the Dark Phoenix can never happen again. And so then it becomes the Avengers versus the X-Men. Yeah.
Ooh, that's a lot.
And that is a great comic book series. Fuck, that is a great comic book series.
So do you think they're going to actually end this movie with someone killing Dark Phoenix?
I mean, potentially what would be great is for them to kind of end this series here and have them kill Dark Phoenix. And then now that it is no longer a Fox property, start up the next aspect of it being the Avengers versus the X-Men, to where it's like years later, here's Hope, da 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 da, and now we can do an Avengers versus the X Men because we already had our Civil War, we already had our Infinity War. Now we can have our Avengers versus X Men, which would be fucking great because Disney owns all of it now. So that would be pretty
Disney owns all of it.
fucking
It'd be a
interesting.
we need we the fans, I think, want the Avengers to continue in a way that is good, that is different and new and good.
Right,
We need new bad guys, we need kind of a new story to kind of reamp this, and
right.
that actually makes a lot of sense. Do you think that may be what they're trying to do?
I don't think they're going to go that route yet because they've been kind of very like not responding to any kind of plans as far as like with the X-Men or with Deadpool or anything else. Like we just got a little bit of information where Disney kind of wants to push the X-Force movies back and give Deadpool his own trilogy, which I don't disagree with. They think there's enough content
Ooh.
within Deadpool for him to have his own trilogy, which I completely agree with. So there's definitely talks between Disney and Ryan Reynolds now because they definitely want Ryan Reynolds to play Deadpool. I mean, he's fucking born for the fucking role, so I don't disagree with that either. But so
He is the favorite Ryan.
yes, yes, he is the good one. Anyways, so it will be interesting to see where they go with the X Men since they've acquired this property now. A lot of people want an X Men reboot just because like the X Men movies were good for their time, but they weren't like mind blowing. To where these Avengers movies, especially the last ones, have been fucking just
They were
juggernauts.
incredible.
Yes, so
Yeah.
a lot of people want to see their X Men doing the same thing because I mean, once again, it was are you Marvel or DC? But even in the Marvel universe, it's like, are you an Avengers fan or are you an X Men fan? You could still be fans of both, but there was one that you kind of grew into, and that was your favorite like part of the series. And like I said, I grew up on the Avengers side of that, even though my favorite character was Deadpool. So I just really like the stories. I mean, a lot of the X Men stuff, it was kind of like the X Men kind of reminded me of the Justice League a little bit. They were always kind of fighting within the team. Like it's like, oh my god, fucking Logan lost his memories, and we got to go fucking put him down or some shit like that. You know, it's like always like that's how the Justice League was in the early days, and that was boring as fuck to me. It was like they fight an enemy. Oh, cool, I got to see the whole team together. Now the next 12 comics are like Batman went rogue, or fucking Green Lantern went rogue, or somebody got their brainwashed, and now we got to fucking stop them, or fucking Superman's going crazy. Like some shit had to do with the team, and I was like, I want to see them as a team fight each other. The Avengers did that every once in a while, but it was always because there was a main enemy behind it. Like the first Avengers enemy was the Hulk because Loki was controlling him. So once they got the Hulk to snap the fuck out of it, then it was like, oh, it's not the Hulk, it's Loki. Now we got to go take down Loki. Like that made sense to where it was like there was still
Well,
a bad guy behind it.
so I've got a question with this.
Go ahead, hit me.
It seemed like what I kind of picked up from what I remember of the X-Men movies, which again, years ago and wasn't watching them to retain them and spit them back out for an audience. Sorry, everybody.
Right.
It seemed like there's a very different mentality with these two teams. With the X-Men, it seemed like Professor X was actually trying to build in this supportive community like, hey, you're going to struggle, you're going to fail, you're going to have difficulty. We're going to deal with that. Pardon me. And like that was built into the team, so you're going to end up with more individuality, you're going to end up with a little bit more like personal struggle and people going through this because the team wasn't designed as a team, it was designed as a school, and it was designed to get you through that with a community, as opposed to the Avengers, which is a whole bunch of adults coming together going, all your shit, all your personal shit, you need to put it away because we have somebody we need to fight right now and we don't have time to deal with your drama. Like those are two totally different concepts. So what they displayed in the movies, is that what you see in the comics?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, like every team's gonna have their fair share of drama and interpersonal shit going on, but yeah, I mean, the X Men. It was definitely one of those things where like the first comics were all about like Charles Xavier's making a place for mutants to go because they're outcast. They have nowhere else to go. People laugh at them, spit on them, you know, fucking capture them, make them fight each other and shit like that. Like they were treated like animals. So Charles Xavier started a place for them to feel, you know, wanted, feel needed, gave them educations because that's something that they needed because they weren't allowed in regular schools, and then, you know, gave them a place to stay, food, everything else, and built a team, and then tried to start changing the word mutant to mean something that people could rely on, people could look up to, making these heroes to save the day. And that's basically how the X Men were founded. So,
It just seems like when you do that with your team, because you're not building a team, you're building a home, you're going to end up with a lot more of this infighting because people are people are at home. And the same
Mhm.
way that you fight with your spouse or you fight with your parents more than you fight with your friends, it's kind of the same vibe. It's you have a different mentality when you're at home.
Well, one of the interesting things that I will give kind of some props to the X-Men for is that whenever you look at the X-Men, it was kind of like the kind of mom and pop operation between Xavier and Magneto. And it was like, they were the founders. They created the home. And then once mom and dad got a divorce, then it was like, oh fuck, who do I go to? Like, who was actually my mentor? Who do I feel the safest with? Da 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 da. Who actually has my
Hmm.
best interest? And then there
Yeah.
was like that whole internal struggle. Well, they've done plenty of times where Magneto has come back to the X Men for whatever. And it's actually funny because Deadpool makes jokes about that all the time, where it's like, oh fucking, I don't know, is it Wednesday? Is Magneto and X Men again? Like, I don't know what the fuck we're doing here, stuff like that, because they've done it so many times. So like, whenever you have that struggle of like, okay, so if Magneto can see the good enough in the X-Men to come back, then maybe Charles Xavier is on the right path. But then it's like, well, why would Magneto leave in the first place? Is Charles doing something that he's not telling us? Because we all know Charles can read people's minds, and he has like his own fucking agenda. And it's like, is that actually working out for us? Does he have my best, you know, uh, does he have my interest or my best interest, on the front of his mind, or is there a reason why Magneto's leaving, and I should be seeing that as well, and then joining Magneto? So they've done really well at that. It's just like I said, when it's kind of like honestly what you said. Whenever you have this big enough house and you have all these fucking people in there, like there's going to be conflict. I understand that. I don't want to read about it every other fucking comic. Where it's a lot easier for me to just like I don't want to hear about how Wolverine's pissed because Cyclops stole his fucking Pop Tarts in the morning and that be an entire fucking comic. Like I don't need that. So, I'm not saying it's not interesting. That people have. I mean, it has its fan base for a reason. I was just easier pulled into by the Avengers. So,
Okay. So, what do you think of their casting choice?
I actually like their casting choice. I don't have an issue with any of the people. I mean, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Cyclops, and that's just because I'm not a fan of Cyclops in the comics to begin with, anyway.
So it
He's
doesn't
always
matter
kind
who
of been
they'd
like
put
a
there. You'd
whiny
be like,
baby.
God damn
Yeah.
it, he's in this.
I mean, it would even be one of those things where it's like, even if Ryan Reynolds played Cyclops, I'd be like, I'd be torn. I'd be like, oh my god. So I'm just not a big fan of Cyclops. Seems like a crybaby to me. So he always was in the comics and stuff like that, and everything else. I don't know. And once again, being a fan of the Avengers, whenever it became Avengers versus X-Men, like Cyclops was the main person that's all like, well, the Avengers don't know what they're talking about. We got to neutralize the Avengers. And I was like, oh, you son of a bitch. Don't you fucking dare talk about my team like that. So, even though they were wanting to kill his daughter, I mean, he's probably justified. But, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, once again, his wife literally murdered like thousands and thousands of people because she couldn't control herself. And now he's like, well, she's Jean's daughter. She'll be able to control it. On what basis are you fucking making this assumption? Please let us fucking know. Because right now, you're just talking out of your ass.
So, why did Jean end up this no nobody cares, but why did Jean end up choosing Cyclops over Wolverine?
So it was more along the lines of like, I think Jean and Cyclops were always meant to be together. And she had a little bit of romance with Wolverine, but like it was more of a Wolverine was into her, and she was like, if something ever happens between me and Scott, then maybe there might be time for us. But until that happens, I'm with Cyclops. So yeah,
Okay. So he was really who she was into.
yes, for sure. I mean, like I said, they
Got it.
definitely had their whole love for each other for a while, but it was definitely more of a Cyclops and Jean Grey thing than a Wolverine and Jean Grey thing. So, but he just always had love for her and wanted to be with her, and that was like one of the biggest defining moments for him. Was whenever it came down to it, Scott wouldn't do what he needed to do because he was so in love with her. And Wolverine's like, I'm in love with her too, but I know what needs to be done. She physically is killing people, and if she had her right mind, she would want us to end her too, to stop her from killing her own family, from killing her own friends, from killing these innocent people. And this is the only way it can be done. And so he got close enough to her, and then fucking, it was like the whole, like, she was trying to, like, read his mind and stuff like that. And she was trying to, like, get him to work on her side, and then out of nowhere, the claws just came out, and everything just stopped. And then just, like, zooms
Oh
in on his
God.
face, and he's just crying.
Did they do that super cheesy thing
I
where
don't
he's
remember how it was in the movie.
almost about to kiss her? Like, did
I
they
don't
do that?
remember. I don't remember how it was in the movie. It was a long time ago, but in the comics, it was kind of like that, yes. But it was
God,
just
I
really
hope they didn't
dramatic, and
do
it was
that.
so great. It's so great. I love it. You just need to quit hating. All right. That scene was
No,
amazing in
I'm
Game of
with.
Thrones as well.
It was not. I'm with Cody when it was happening. I'm like, God, ow,
Oh,
hacks. I was with Cody on that one.
oh, I love it. I love it. It's great. But I think it's interesting that they're kind of keeping it the same way as they did in the comics because, like I said, it is something that roams around the universe and stuff like that. It's going to be interesting now that Wolverine is not going to be the one to put her down how they're going to do it because technically, getting into the nerd side of things here, she is an Omega level mutant, which is the highest level out there.
Oh,
Like she
so
can
similar to the
literally,
Hulk, does not have limits.
right, basically. Yes, she can. She is a planet buster. She's more of like a solar system buster. And the only other people
Jesus.
on her level are Magneto, which we just saw her literally do whatever the fuck she wanted to him, and
Yeah.
Iceman. Those are the only two people who are actually on her level as far as an Omega level mutant is concerned. Magneto, because he can literally control the magnet aspect inside the Earth to literally throw it off its axis and just fucking rip it into shreds if he wanted to, using his full potential. And the Iceman, because as long as there is water around, he physically can't die. Like he can manipulate matter. Like whenever mutants
Oh.
get onto that aspect of their powers, they're Omega level
Mm-hmm.
mutants. So, I
Jeez.
mean,
That's
technically,
impressive.
yeah, it's pretty fucking nuts. So those are the only two. Like, I mean, Storm doesn't come close to her level. Cyclops doesn't come close to her level. Like, it's going to be pretty interesting to see what they want to do. Especially since so far what we've seen is her basically do whatever the fuck she wants to do to Magneto, and he just takes it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And I highly doubt we're going to get like a fucking solo hero moment from Bobby Drake. I highly doubt that's going to happen. So I think Iceman's going to be taking a back seat. I didn't even see him in the fucking trailer. I don't even know if he's part of this universe. So we'll just have to wait and see. I don't know what the fuck Quicksilver's doing, but he's there. So he's the fan favorite Quicksilver, so they had to bring him into another movie because no one gave two shits about the Quicksilver in the Avengers universe. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember him. He was killed very quickly.
yeah, yeah, no, there was two different people, two different actors, all due to studio rights. Studio rights because
Two different people,
Magneto.
two different actors.
Yep,
Okay.
because Magneto. Uh, so there's actually this really cool chart where it kind of shows like all the heads of Marvel Universe, and then they got the big gigantic circles around them to show you like where they belong. And like
Mm-hmm.
Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were like so much into the universe of both that they were like inside both the circles. So it was
Oh,
as
interesting.
long as they didn't use the origin of them being Magneto's children, because technically they actually are in the X-Men universe. Yes, those are Magneto's kids.
Ooh.
As long as they didn't use that origin because it linked directly to the X-Men, they were allowed to use Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. So that's why they were Russian or German test subjects in the Avengers movie. So that way they could avoid the whole Magneto
Huh.
being their parents, and they were able to use them in the Avengers movie.
That is really interesting.
Right? Interesting
And I'm
way to get
getting
around those.
this is going to sound extremely ignorant and I should know better by now, so I'm sorry about this. I get confused when we talk about the X-Men universe versus the Marvel universe given that they're supposed to exist in the same universe. So I'm why do we refer to these things this way?
So the reason why is because you didn't really have a lot of team ups. Technically speaking, they all not only reside in the same universe, they reside on the same in the same state. Avengers Tower is in New York. Upstate New York on the little island right off the coast is X-Men Mansion. They're all in the same state. Like they're
So
all
they're
together.
practically brushing elbows and we're
Pretty
treating
much,
them like they're all
yes.
different.
Yes.
Okay.
But it was because X-Men had such an expansive cast of members, it was easy to be like this is kind of like their own thing, and they didn't really do a lot of shit with the Avengers. To where the Avengers had their own group as well, so it was a lot easier to be like, all right, cool. So this is the Avengers, and you kind of got to pick who you wanted to follow, and then go from there. And then you had all your like side characters like Spider-Man and shit, where it's like, oh yeah, they're their own solo heroes, but sooner or later they end up getting adopted by a team. And Spider-Man went the Avengers route, obviously, because he wasn't technically a mutant. It was like you were classified to be a mutant if you were born with the powers. If you weren't born with the powers, then you were basically on the Avengers.
Okay.
Because
Oh
everybody
God.
that's
So
an X-Men or everybody that's part of the X-Men was born with their powers, except for like Beast. I think is the only person that's not. Yeah, because he injected himself with something and got his powers. But apparently they made fucking things were made different for him. So I mean, Deadpool's
yeah,
technically the
okay.
same way. He also wasn't born with his powers either.
So is there any enemy in this universe, in these universes, excuse me, that are big enough that it actually gets like everybody together to go fight him? Because I feel like
Um,
Thanos really should have been one, but
Thanos. I mean, technically and technically not. So like Thanos wasn't one. I mean, they've kind of had some with like Ronan. I believe there's times like the X Men teamed up, but there's been things where like the Avengers have like pulled in X Men characters. Like Wolverine actually has been a member of the Avengers at a couple different points in the comic book lore, which is pretty cool. And there's other people who have made that list as well. Same thing, vice versa. But it's always kind of been like this is the X Men shit, this is the Avengers shit, and then they've had their like their come together moments where they needed to like come together and do shit, but it's normally like not like a full team aspect. I think there might have been a couple times where like they all got came together to fight Galactus, which is
hmm
the fucking world eater. He's fucking gigantic, so they needed like help from there because I mean technically if you want to look at it that way, Fantastic Four is kind of their own faction as well, but they do a lot of shit with the Avengers because they're such a small team. So they kind of been their own faction as well, but sooner or later they just get adopted into the Avengers. But there was a big split that happened when the Civil War broke out. A lot of the X-Men were like, "All right, you guys have way too much bullshit going on between your organization. Like we're just gonna do us. We're not giving away our this has nothing to do with us. Like we're already hated being mutants. We don't need this extra political bullshit going on as well. A lot of the X
hmm
Men went underground. A lot like Colossus went back to Russia. Was just like fuck this, I'm done. He went back to Russia. It was just like I'm not dealing with this shit anymore. Like there was a huge divide, and ever since then, it's kind of like the X Men have just kind of done their shit. Avengers kind of done their shit, and then we got this whole fight between them later on, way later on, with the Avengers versus the X Men. So, which is pretty interesting.
Who
Yeah.
won that fight?
Um, I think that was a series where it ended both ways, where you could actually like there was a comic that went where the Avengers won, and then a comic that went where the X Men won.
So, however you originally split
Pretty
is the
much,
comic that you bought. Okay.
pretty much, yeah. And you could buy the other one to see how it happened, but yeah, because I want to
But you
say,
decided which one was your canon?
yeah, I want to say Iron Man, and I could be wrong. God, it's been so long since I read this fucking series. I want to say Iron Man was the one to finally get the chance to pull the trigger on Hope, and then I think it was like they did it the same way around, where Iron Man was about to kill Hope, and then Cable put Iron Man down. So that was one of the first comic book covers too, which was pretty cool. And I think that's the only way that it split to was the end. I think it was the last comic was the split. Everything else was the same comic all the way up. The only difference was that if you were an X-Men fan, there was X-Men fan favorite comic book cover, and then there was an Avenger fan favorite comic book cover. But the first comic that was an X-Men favorite comic book cover, it showed like Iron Man dead on the ground with a bullet hole in his head, and then Captain America dead on the ground with a bullet hole in his head, and then you just saw like Cable's legs walking through, which is pretty cool. So
Jeez, that sounds intense.
a lot of people don't really know how like powerful Cable is, which is why I would really like to see him in the movie. It's not going to happen, but a lot of people really don't understand like how powerful Cable is, because like one of the things that Disney is kind of talking about as far as if they were to reboot the X-Men, they would kind of like to do the aspect that has Kitty Pryde. So Kitty Pryde is Colossus's younger sister. She is actually the first X-Men to contract the T virus. The T virus is basically AIDS for the mutants. And
Ooh.
so a lot of people don't know if like it's okay for them to do that movie or something like that. I mean, my personal opinion, I don't see an issue with it. Like, to be fair, if we're gonna talk about it, like you already saw it on screen. Cable is one of the main mutants that has the T virus. That whole metal aspect to him is the T virus. It's trying to engulf his entire body, and Cable is literally using his mutant powers to keep it at bay 24/7. Like people really don't understand how
Yeesh.
strong Cable is. Like he is insanely fucking strong. So to be able to do all the shit he does and keep part of his mind focused on keeping this virus to only half his body is insane. Absolutely insane. So, yeah, it's pretty fucking nutty. So I would love to see that aspect go, because there's three comics that are known as the saddest comics in Marvel history. Two of them deal with Spider-Man. One of them deal with the X-Men, and that's the death of Ileana, which is Colossus' sister, Kitty Pryde, because she actually dies from the T virus. They're not able to find a cure, and this is whenever they find out that they basically can't find a cure, and people just kind of have to deal with it. But it was referred to as AIDS for mutants back in those days in the actual
Jeez.
comics. So a lot of people are kind of like, can they really do that? Is that like insensitive? And it's just kind of like it's real, and like that's just how we dealt with shit back in comics in those days. Like I said, when we were fighting against the Germans and the Nazis and shit, so was Captain America. When all of a sudden AIDS was this big epidemic and Americans were having to deal with it, so were our heroes. They were also having to deal with the T virus. Like it was a way for people to kind of cope with it, and I think that that's something that was important back then, which should still be important to today on this screen. I don't really think of it as an insensitive aspect because it's not like they're just running around joking around like, "Hey, I got the T virus." They're not making fun of it. It's like a serious thing that's impacting their life, and we
Yeah.
actually see casualties from it as well, which would be pretty cool to see as far as like them living it up to the way the comic was, because that was such a huge moment. I mean, I'm pretty sure that is, I don't know, it might be a tie between that one and the death of Aunt May, but I'm pretty sure that that one is like known as the saddest comic of all. Is the
Hmm.
death of Ileana, and then I think it's the death of Aunt May, and then the death of Gwen Stacy. So, and they've already done the death of Gwen Stacy, so they need to hit the other two.
What's wrong with you? We do not need to make people cry. Stop it. You read comics because you want to be dark and sad. I get that. Do not force that on the rest of us.
We need it, all
Now,
right? It makes the stories great. Anyways, continue.
now, some of the ones that we refuse to talk about Captain Marvel, those are the worst Marvel comics, not the saddest, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Those were like really insanely dark and deep and talked about things that I just
And unnecessary.
yeah, that's the biggest issue, was that it was unnecessary. It was something that, in my opinion, should never even have been wrote. Once again, for the fans that are wondering what we're talking about, I'm not going to go into detail about it. If you want to know about it, Google Avengers issue number 200, and you'll be able to pick up the pieces from there. Anyways, so it was something
We're
that,
also not recommending you do this,
no,
by
I'm
the way.
not recommending it whatsoever. It was a dark time in comics, and it's not something that I necessarily think needs to be brought up, and that's why we don't talk about it here on Dead Funny. But as far as this whole like virus thing, I mean, whenever you look at mutants, most of them have like these mutant powers that kind of somewhat make them immortal. This is a way to kind of change that and balance the scales.
Ooh.
A lot of these
And give
mutants have
them
like super fucking. I mean, think about it: Sabretooth, healing factor. Wolverine, healing factor. Deadpool, healing factor. Most of these mutants have healing factors. Like they're going to go on for years and years and years. We saw in the Wolverine movie, the Origins of Wolverine. Him and Sabretooth have been alive since like fucking ever. Like
yeah.
fucking 1680 or some shit. I mean, they've been alive forever. It's one of those things where it's like a lot of these people are seen on this god tier, and this was a way to kind of knock some of those people off the scale. And one of those people that was extremely fucking strong was Nathan Summers, aka Cable. So
Okay. Now, how in the world, if Jean was killed so quickly, how does she have kids? How did that happen?
she was pregnant with Nathan way before then, and Cable is actually from the future, just like he was in the movie. Cable's like overall character is from the future. He sees his baby self all the time. So like in the aspect of the Dark Phoenix, Nathan is still pretty much like a little kid, and Hope is a baby. Like that was the last thing that happened, was she gave birth to Hope before the Dark Phoenix took over. That was basically like the end of the just the because she went through stages kind of like Captain Marvel did, where she was Miss Marvel then Captain Marvel, or even better, she was Carol Danvers then Miss Marvel then Captain Marvel, to where it was Jean Grey is just Jean Grey with her psychic abilities and stuff like that. Then she became the Phoenix after she first got the Phoenix Force, and it took a little while for it to like really start to show her evil side. Then she became the Dark Phoenix, which was the Omega Planet Buster aspect of her, and started fucking going crazy
Okay.
and slaughtering
So
innocent people left and right. So
so the babies that she had to have were already born.
yes, correct.
Okay.
The only reason why Cable even comes into anything is because he's able to time skip and go in and out of the future and the past whenever he pleases.
And now I don't know this that well. Nathan and Cable are two different
No,
people.
Nathan is the same person. So Nathan
Oh,
Summers is Cable's real name. Cable is his hero name. Kind of like
okay.
Scott Summers is Cyclops' real name. Jean Grey is Phoenix's real name. And then Hope
Cool.
Summers, I don't know what her superhero name is, but I think she's just Hope. Some people want a superhero name, some people don't.
I mean, Hope's a good name, so.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So yes, Nathan Summers is Cable.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. I don't know these characters like I know any Marvel characters at this point,
Fair
so.
enough. Fair enough. Like I said, everybody grows up on a side. You were an Avenger fan. There you go. You chose right.
And if I wasn't an Avengers fan, I was by the end of our Marvel marathon.
Right, right. Yeah, it was actually funny in my household because I grew up with a house that I was an Avengers fan, but my favorite character was from X-Men. My mom was a hardcore X-Men fan. My dad was a hardcore Avengers fan, but had love for the X-Men, obviously, because he collected the comics, but he actually ended up collecting more X-Men comics because my mom loved the X-Men that much. And then, fuck. Where was I going to go from that? And then my little brother was kind of, I don't know, his favorite character was Taskmaster. I mean, I would say he was probably, I don't know if he really cared too much about either one, honestly. He was kind of like an in the middle kind of person. So, which is funny because I got my middle name from Blade the Vampire Hunter, and my brother got his middle name from Cable because his middle name is Nathan.
God, nerds becoming parents. It's
Yep.
just a
Well,
joy.
that was actually a stab back at my dad because my mom did not know Blade was a comic book character whenever I got my middle name. And once she found out that was the stab back, she got to choose her favorite comic book character. My dad did not get to choose his favorite. He chose something that he didn't think she would find. Well, she found it. So, because lo and behold, they started making Blade movies. It's like, well, where the fuck does Blade come from? Oh, he's a Marvel character. So, yeah.
I would have so loved to be in that household when she figured that out. Just to fly on the wall.
Well, it's
in
like
a
one of
very,
those
very
things.
far corner.
It's one of those things where it's like I kind of felt my dad's pain on that one because it's like, what are the chances? You know, like they make so many vampire movies and Dracula movies. What were the chances that Blade would get a fucking movie deal? You know, because I'm in the same boat. Whenever I was a Deadpool fan, he was a D-list villain. Like, that's it. He was a bad guy. There was no, like, anti-hero or mercenary. He was just a bad guy. He was a mercenary, but he was a bad guy. And now look at him. He's a goddamn anti-hero. He's, like, up there with some of the most spoken names in Marvel. He's got his own fucking movie series. Like, who would have fucking known, you know? If I would have named my kid Wade, it would have came back to bite me in the ass, you know? So, not saying I have a kid, but still, you know, it been like, oh, well, you totally named that after Deadpool. Obviously, he's your favorite Marvel character. Because my dad's actual favorite Marvel character is Thor. My mom's favorite Marvel character was, fucking, like I said, Cable. And my brother likes Taskmaster, and that was Deadpool. Which is funny, because Deadpool and Taskmaster are like fucking arch enemies. So, although Taskmaster doesn't view himself as Deadpool's nemesis. Deadpool views him as his nemesis and says it all the time. And Taskmaster's like, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Because they do a lot of team ups together too. So, yeah. They have a weird relationship, we'll put it that way. I like Taskmaster a lot. He's actually a really cool fucking character. His superpower is fucking stupid broken. He has photographic reflexes and photographic memory, which means he can watch somebody fight and then be able to understand their entire fighting skill and beat them in hand-to-hand combat. And he only has to watch them fight for like 10 seconds. He can literally
you
remember
told me
their
about
muscles.
this. It's insane.
Yeah, it's not even just so much as looking at their skills. He actually remembers their muscle memory movement. So he knows exactly how their body's going to react to punches or trying to block or anything. It's fucking stupid strong.
Is that limited to fighting, or can he just go and be like, win
No.
Wimbledon?
He can literally watch somebody literally hack into a system and know how to do it.
Dude, this man needs to just go to the Olympics and just be an Olympian. Problem solved. Like, get all of them.
Right. Like I said, he's got
Because you have to pay
photographic
taxes on
reflexes
those, so
and
never mind.
photographic memory, so he's able to fucking do both, which is fucking insane. But it's
That's
awesome. Like I said, I
crazy.
like it. He's pretty fucking cool. But once again, that comes from the fact that he's been in so many fucking Deadpool series that, you know, kind of you get that love. That's why I have a love for Cable too. Like if Cable was never in Deadpool series, I probably wouldn't give two shits about Cable. That's probably true. 100%. I could literally give two shits about him. Like, but he's been in so many Deadpool series where they had so many good times back and forth where I was like, it's funny. So, he even made an appearance in the Deadpool video game. So,
Oh, man.
so yeah, and that's kind of what Disney wants to do is kind of give Deadpool his true thing. So that would be cool because then we might get a Taskmaster in a movie, which would be great. And Disney, if you're listening, which I know you're not, but if you're listening, who knows? You maybe own us by now. Who fucking knows? But if you're listening, Jason Statham would be an amazing fucking Taskmaster. That's all I'm saying. Jason Statham would be fucking amazing. Cast that man as a Marvel character. We need it. Taskmaster. Let's do it. I mean, his fucking ass-kicking skills in the transporter would be so fucking good as the muscle memory guy in fucking Marvel. Get it. Let's do it. Sign him. Done. Deal. I just did your job for you, Disney. You're welcome. I'll give that one to you for free. But after that, I'm going to start needing like a fee, a founder's fee.
Yes, because I'm sure Disney needed you to inform them that Jason
Absolutely.
Statham existed.
I'm sure I'll get an email later and it'll be like, your founder's fee is letting your channel stay alive.
Yeah.
You don't fuck with Mickey Mouse, okay? He runs everything.
He does. It's very terrifying.
It is, for sure. But, so yeah. So it will be interesting to see how they do this Dark Phoenix movie. I'm really excited to see how it's going to end. And if it ends, I really feel like this is a chance for them to end the entire X-Men franchise and let the Fox franchise be done and end things. Because this is still technically a Fox movie because it was in production before the Disney buyout. Just like the last Deadpool movie was still a Fox movie. And that will be a great way to end the X-Men franchise the Fox way, and then Disney can kind of go in a different direction, hire the people they want to hire and cast and stuff like that. So I think this is the perfect way to end it. It's just going to be weird seeing it done without Wolverine being a main factor because he's not in this movie. So he retired his claws after Logan.
Yep. Well, I guess he kind of had to.
Yep. I mean, they'll have to. I mean, he's been dead and brought back so many fucking times. Who knows? But, it happens all the time in the fucking comics. Like, oh, Wolverine died. Come back in 2 months whenever he'll have a new fucking story. Just be back. They literally had a comic book series for a while called Wolverine or Logan Goes to Hell. And it was literally about Wolverine being alive, but he's in hell. And trying to get back to the world of the living. Like, it happens all the fucking time. So, it is what it is. But yeah, so overall, like I said, I'm super pumped to go see this movie. I think it's going to be really, really good. And like I said, if it's an ending to the X-Men franchise, it should be a really, really good one. I think that Fox has made some terrible mistakes back in the day with their movies as far as the X-Men aspect goes. I was kind of bored watching the X-Men movies a lot more than I was excited, but the newer ones were kind of really, really good. Like, I loved Apocalypse. I don't know if you watched that one. Age of Apocalypse was the one before this one. That one was really, really good. It was the first one with Quicksilver in it. Where they were taking down Apocalypse. The actual he's basically like the X-Men version of Thanos almost.
Pretty sure I didn't watch that.
He probably more like Ronan, actually, the Accuser, than he would. What's cool with him is, like, in the actual comics, he actually picks 4 mutants to be his 4 horsemen of the Apocalypse.
Woo!
And, like, takes them over to his side. Yeah. And Wolverine, I think, was always the god of war, or the horseman of war. I think he was always war. He's either war or death, but I'm pretty sure he was war. I know Gambit at one time was famine. Yeah, he always
That's
picks,
interesting.
Like, yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, but yeah, it will be interesting to see how they end this. I thought Apocalypse was really, really good. I really enjoyed that one. It'll be interesting to see how they end this one, like I said, without Wolverine being a huge player in this role. Because, I mean, they've already did the aspect where it's like this X-Men cast is, like, extremely younger than Wolverine. So having this whole love scene between Jean Grey and Wolverine probably wouldn't look as good as it could.
It would feel really uncomfortable.
Probably. Which is why Wolverine's probably not in it. Nothing against Hugh Jackman. You are a lovely man. You look extremely good for your age. I'm not saying anything against you, sir. You are amazing and awesome. But it was probably for better choice that they chose to go a different direction. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I'm also pretty sure he didn't want to do it either.
It would probably be like having, for a Game of Thrones reference, for those of you who aren't big into X-Men, it would probably be like Sean Bean actually playing Renly Baratheon. And having the same scene with Arya Stark being Macy Williams. It just wouldn't be right.
Do you mean Renly Baratheon?
Right. No, I said Renly.
Do you mean
Gendry? Gendry. Fuck, not Renly.
Yeah.
No one cares about Renly. All right, he's dead.
Renly was not there for very long. Brienne cared about Renly. A lot.
But did she make the best choices, though? I mean, she slept with Jaime, and Jaime was a dick. She didn't really make the good choices. I'm just saying, she could have had a great night with Tormund. That's all I'm saying. Like, We
I
all
feel like
wanted
she would have
that.
remembered her night with Tormund much better.
Yeah,
Like,
we all would have loved to have seen that. Like, let's be real. All right, that was the real love scene that we all wanted in Game of Thrones and didn't get. All right, was
yep.
Torment and Brienne.
Tormented anybody, really.
Yeah, true. But anyways, so yeah, I'm super hyped. Like I said, so far it looks like they're keeping the origin story the same with Dark Phoenix, so that's pretty cool. But we'll just have to wait and see. But like I said, we will do a review show after the movie comes out. I know for sure I'm going to go see it. I know for sure Bree's going to go see it. So you'll at least have us two, and we'll go from there as far as who actually goes and sees it and make a review show. But overall, what are your thoughts on the trailer? I guess we should at least do that.
I think the trailer was A, exciting,
Mhm.
B, reminded me that these movies exist and that these characters exist. So that was really great.
She's like,
and
oh my God!
Well, I don't care about them
Fair
and I
enough.
don't follow them. So to see the trailer and go, oh, I actually really want to see that and remember who all these people are. Maybe I should go to the library and like rent those movies and check them out, kind of thing. I think that's a good sign. That's a good trailer that makes me actually want to go watch this. So
Yeah, sure.
I'm pumped for it.
You
Let's
you
go
really don't
watch
have to
it.
go
It's gonna
that
be
far
great.
back. You only have to do Apocalypse and Days of Future Past. That'd be the only two movies you need to watch because the other ones don't. They like once Days of Future Past was done, that was them rewriting the series in the movies. So basically, everything that was done before was redone, so that way they could do the Dark Phoenix over again and do it the way they wanted to do it.
They could do anything they wanted.
Yep, and that's why
Yeah.
Jean Grey was a different actress, obviously. So, yep. So that's why everything was kind of rewritten and all these new people got casted. So it would be pretty interesting. One of the main things that I'm excited to see is the downfall between Xavier and Beast, because that was one of the things in one of the trailers. It wasn't in this one, but they're like sitting at a table, and Beast also like likes Jean Grey a lot, not like a lover, but like like kind of like a sister almost. And that was one of the things where it's like you had an opportunity to help her and you didn't, because like that's one of the things that you actually see is like he actually suppressed the memory of how she became a mutant, how she got there in the trailer
Mm-hmm.
was because she accidentally flipped over the car with her mutant abilities and killed her parents
Oh.
because she was scared. So he suppressed that and she didn't know that, and now that this Dark Phoenix has taken over her, it brought that memory back and brought the fact that he suppressed it back. So he did something without her consent, and yeah, and she's also a
Ooh, that's not
psychic.
good.
Yeah, she's also a psychic and can do the same stuff. So it's always kind of been like a taboo thing of like, you don't read my mind, I won't read yours, type deal.
Oh, you fucked up, son.
Yeah. So now
Ooh.
it's like Beast is like, you had a chance to fix this, and you made the choices you did, and now she's that's the reason she's doing what she's doing, which is pretty interesting. So. Ooh. Anyways. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. Um, excited to see it. Yep. Did we get a rating? Let's give it a rating right quick. 3 out of 10. What's your hype level?
0 out of 10? 0 to 10? Okay.
Yeah, sure, whatever. 0 to 10. What's your
Yeah,
hype level?
0 out of 10 is a
0
horrible
out of 10.
scale.
All right, look, there is a 0 in 10, Kelsey. Fuck. All right. Don't try to come
So
at
you're
me.
giving it a 1, you're removing the 0 from
Don't
10?
come
That's
at
a
me with
shitty
your
rating.
dumb logic. We've talked about this. Shit. All right.
I'd say 8. 8.5.
Damn, that's fucking high. I'm just joking. Yeah, I'd give it an 8 as well. I'd give it an 8 as well. I'm excited. Like I said, Apocalypse was really, really good. So I'm really, really excited to see what they do after Apocalypse, because I really enjoyed Apocalypse. I thought it was good. I thought Apocalypse looked very fucking weird and nothing like him from the comics, but that's okay. And even as I'm talking about that right now, I only saw Apocalypse once, so I'm having a real hard time remembering what Apocalypse looked like and making a different view from him and Ronan right now, because I'm really just seeing Ronan and I'm like, yeah, that's not Apocalypse. But anyways, they're basically the same person in the comics. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you like and subscribe. Also, hit us in the comments and let us know your thoughts and your rating and how excited you are and pumped you are to go see this movie. Let us also know what fandom did you choose? Did you choose to be an Avengers fan, or did you choose to be an X-Men fan? Let us know. Let's get hashtag Team Avengers and hashtag Team X-Men in the comments. And whoever wins, Dead Funny will do absolutely nothing and just continue to make the content that we make every single week. Yeah, that is my promise to you. Anyways, make sure you turn on notifications. That way you get notified every time we upload another video, so that way you can see our review show to the Phoenix. And also make sure that you hit us on the Twitter links if you want a more direct form of communication, and the Twitch links if you want to watch us play video games. But at the end of all this, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. We will see you next time.